All right, let's go ahead and finish off this Automoblox male body. We're on page 7, and we're at step 6. Where we left off in the last video was I just created this particular feature, and now we're going to go ahead and create the rest of this body. So we're going to use a couple of pretty nifty tools with this particular section. First thing we have to do is, according to step 6, we need to place a work axis through the center point along the long axis of the ellipse of the body. So to do that, to help me do that, I'm actually going to create a sketch on the top face here, and I want to use a center point, and I have to kind of, in order, see how I can't really, I can do that, but that's not the center of the part. So what I actually have to do is I have to make the long and short axes of this ellipse. So I can do that just by completing the following. So I want to, see how it's yellow there, or green there? I want to go straight across, and then I want to go, and I wait for that little line there to make sure, and I go down. Okay, so, and then I'm going to add a point where they intersect, and finish the sketch. So that's all I need for that, just to kind of identify the center of this ellipse, because that's where I want a work axis to go through. And so to create that, I go to work axis. I'm going to zoom in on the sketch here just so you can see. Make sure you select the point, and then pull up. And then it's going to create a work axis through that point and perpendicular to the plane. Whereas if I selected either of these lines, it would have made a work axis along these lines, which maybe I need, but not now. I don't need it, so it's okay. So the work axis is there. Now, we're going to choose a face of the square base that is parallel to the long axis of the ellipse that was used to create the body. Well, that means that I want to pick a face that's parallel to the long axis. This is the long axis, okay? So a face on the bottom that's parallel to this would be either this face or the face in the back. We'll use this face on the front here. It would be wrong to use this because this is actually perpendicular to the long axis, this face or the other face on the opposite side. So we're going to make sure we use the face in the bottom. So we'll create a sketch, and we're going to add it to that. Now the next thing we're going to do is, before we do any sketching at all, we're actually going to go to the sketch and right-click. And we're going to select something called Slice Graphics. And what this is, it basically takes away any solid geometry that is in front of this sketch plane. Okay, so obviously the sketch plane's on this part, but remember how we tapered extrusion on the last part? You can see up here, it's kind of cut that little curve out of it. It makes a nice little parabola when you do that, by the way, for future Algebra 2 people. So anyway, what we want to do now is project the geometry. We're going to project the geometry, and that's going to, we want to take the work axis and put it on the sketch. So project geometry, select the work axis, okay, and that's it. So there's our work axis on our geometry. And then we're going to need that because we're going to create a pretty nifty sketch out of this. All right, so what we're going to do, we want to try to make sure that this is relatively straightforward. We're going to make a 3-point arc. Now watch carefully. We're going to pick a point out here, and we're going to go horizontal and go roughly there, and then we want the third point to intersect, or as close as possible to intersect, this horizontal line. Okay, it doesn't have, even if it goes over a little bit, it's really okay. We're later going to center that by adding this dimension right here to this work axis, to this plane, which, okay, and that's going to be 0.8. All right, so that's good. Now we'll also add this dimension. Now, the way this is, the way this particular thing is set up, it gives us a, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of looking back on here. Sketch an arc and center it on the figure to approximate the curve of the shoulders of the figure. Do not worry about the exact dimensions. We have to line that encompasses all the existing geometry for the arc. Project geometry axis of the sketch. Right click. Just face of the square base that is parallel to the long axis of the ellipse. Okay, so I want to make sure I did it right before I continue, because I do notice that the way the sketch is kind of arranged, we have a bit of an issue. I thought I had a bit of an issue with the way that sketch was listed, and I think I can fix that. So I'm going to try this one more time. I want this to be a, I know what I can do. I got it. I got it. Okay, I know I'm talking to myself a little bit. I tend to do that in my videos, I know. And I do apologize for that, but so be it. Okay, I want that to be right there. That's pretty good. And then we'll add, yeah, I don't think it really needs to, just don't worry about dimensions. Okay, you know what? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna leave that arc as it is. Okay. Well, let's sketch the rest of this geometry. We want this line to be a horizontal line, and I'm gonna make sure it's horizontal by adding that constraint, and it already is, so that, okay, so we're all set there. Is there anything I gotta trim out? Let's see. Nope, that's pretty good, and that should be pretty good. Okay, and then I'm gonna complete this sketch by adding a set of lines, so I get this sort of trapezoidal kind of shape. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new part of the solid by adding something called the intersect extrusion tool. So we're going to finish the sketch until we've got this sort of, you know, nice little thing here. We're going to perform a midplane intersect extrusion. The dialog box may appear different in other versions of Inventor, so let's do it. Extrude. We're going to select all of the geometry that's in the sketch that we just created. Of course, now you're thinking like, well, wait a minute, what is this? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create an intersect extrusion. We don't actually need to kind of do a distance, and we're just going to do all. Now watch this. Check this out. We hit OK, and it's processing. There goes my computer again. Let's sit back and wait. I know you can't see me sitting back in my chair, but I'm twiddling my thumbs, waiting very patiently for my computer to do all this hard work. Come on, computer. Work with me here. Who knows? I might have just crashed Inventor. Well, if that's the case, I guess this concludes part 2. So I'm going to hopefully recover all this information and try to get this midplane extrusion to finish. And midplane extrusion, I already told one error I did. So I'm going to have to show this extrusion again in another video. So this concludes part 2 for now. I do apologize for the computer errors that are going on, but we'll get past it. See you in part 3.